Actually, can I pass the water?
Give the guy some water. He's black. He's been through a lot.
Sup guys, I'm Jeron Jordan, and this is N.W.A. Niggas Want an Apology. So this week, I've decided to expand my horizons a little bit. Instead of focusing on one specific TV show or movie, I've decided to take a look at a genre as a whole, and that is the fantasy adventure genre. So the fantasy genre is one that I'm sure you're familiar with. The Robin Hoods, the King Arthurs, the Game of Thrones. And that's where I'm gonna focus the conversation. So Game of Thrones is a show that everyone knows about. It'd be kind of a waste of my time to be like, this is what Game of Thrones is. It's the show with the nudity, the incest, and the dragons, which already owes a bunch of niggas an apology for that dog shit season 8 finale. Oh my god.
Best season ever!
It's not like they just cucked us on like a decade's worth of amazing content in which we invested our heart and soul and emotions in and watched people we love die and the Red Wedding. There's a really peculiar coincidence about all the black characters in Game of Thrones. So what I realized was all of them are slaves.
Meritovie jiderve samovita himeglezor espobilma.
Coming for to carry me home.
Spaghetti ice.
Das war easy. Skatala Jenkupe. Indong Kuma Opensino.
Coming for to carry me.
What about this character? I'll get to them. Seriously, almost every black character of importance on that show is a slave or was a slave. And
Azandi. Diese Zenerki. Avididan.
Busy. Let's clinic. After Tago.
Sorry, man. Wouldn't let that shit happen to me, though.
that's a little weird, right? And if I were to go through and name all of these characters, I guarantee I can name every single black character on the show on my hand, right? So there's Miss Andy, Grey Worm, let me see, I did some research here, if I can read this. Zaro-Zan-Doxos?
Zaro-Zan-Doxos.
I'm just gonna assume that maybe there was like some background guy who happened to be black, maybe like one of the Dothraki. They're vaguely brown enough. And the black pirate guy.
I'm a pirate.
They're the exceptions, and no one can tell me that these two characters are the pinnacle of representation. I think it's a little uncreative that in a fantasy world, the only depiction of black people is a depiction that's based in realism. You're of darker complexion, you must have been in bondage at one point. Oh yeah, by the way, Miss Sandy is like straight up the only black woman on that entire series. There's no other black women at all. I can barely think of any black women in fantasy. The only black woman I know in fantasy is in The Black Knight, starring Martin Lawrence, that came out back in like 2003.
Let's get it over with.
Fantasy in general lacks a lot of black people. The closest thing we get to a black person in The Lord of the Rings are the orcs. And that's not like a dark joke or anything. I'm being 100% serious. There are like no black people in that entire series. Here's a little fun game you can do. Name all the black people in Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna put every single line spoken by a black character in the Lord of the Rings series. It's an awesome video, you guys should check it out, but here's a little preview of it. You ready? And...
Whom do you serve? Saruman.
What is it? What do you smell? Man fled. Picked up our trail. Get a fire going! I'm starving.
Yikes. Not even an entire minute of screen time was made by a black person. And that's even offensive that they consider this thing a black person. What is this? See, what tends to happen when there even are characters who aren't white in these sort of fantasy genres is they tend to be some sort of subspecies, like an orc or the Gerudo people in Legend of Zelda, for my Legend of Zelda fans out there. The subtext for these people, don't worry, they are black, but they aren't one of us. even in something like Harry Potter, which I consider a part of the fantasy genre, there are like a handful of black people in the 8 movies and 7 book series that we even have. The one chance they had to feature a prominent black actress, what they did was recast her as a white girl when she actually had some lines in the movie. So the common defense against this general critique of lack of black people in the fantasy genre is, well, fantasy is usually based off of medieval Europe. There weren't a lot of black people there.
Why are you talking like that?
Like what?
That ridiculous British accent.
You're telling me that throughout all of Europe, in the centuries and centuries of trade and multiculturalism, that there weren't any black people there that weren't slaves? It also fails to acknowledge the great black empires and civilizations that existed long ago. People like the Moors, who were highly intelligent, advanced, very regal people who have a whole history that I and you probably haven't even heard of. And even if I were to believe this thesis of, well, there aren't any black people because there were no black people then, put some in! You can do whatever you want! It's make believe. It's fantasy. You know what there also wasn't plenty of in medieval Europe? Dragons, fairies, orcs, what are they called? Animal possession people. Wargs. There were no wargs then either. What has happened in the fantasy genre is white has become the default, as it has been for almost all genres. It's kind of lazy writing as compared to intentional racism. And I want to get that across. I want them to acknowledge that there is implicit bias and racism that lead to these sort of decisions being made. I'm not trying to attack Game of Thrones specifically, or Lord of Rings specifically. I'm trying to highlight an issue that you might not have even noticed, or even if you did notice, you probably think isn't a big deal. And to be honest with you, I kind of agree. What I'm trying to get at is writers and future creatives, people who might be watching this very video, to expand your understanding of the genre. Don't limit fantasy to just the very majestic elves and the tall giants and, you know, gruffy white dude with beard who drinks beer and, you know, rah! Like that. We'll always have that, but let's also have multiracial, multicultural world that we see in reality as a part of our fantasy world. I'd love to see a dude with a Caesar cut and 360 waves. Once again, the main point I'm driving home is, if this is a fantasy world, why not let me indulge in the fantasy too? Are these really fantasy worlds for everyone, or just the fantasies of a couple of old white guys? Fortunately, people have been noticing this sad trend of lack of diversity in the fantasy genre. In shows like Bridgerton, which I'm not about to watch Bridgerton, but they do have a black lead, and they have a diverse world of people where it doesn't matter if whether or not black people were part of royal British society. Instead, they just put them in there because it's made up. There's still hope on the horizon. The upcoming Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones spin-offs seem to have some black people as a part of their primary cast. Let's count them up.
Here we go.
1,
2, 3. Is it 4? 4,
5,
6. Not 4 or 5 or 6. Oh well, the suspense is killing me. Let's get back.
7,
8. Could it be 9? 9. It's 9! 9! Oh, happy day!
Alright, okay. Alright, that's better than nothing, right? Let's just hope that they have more than 46 seconds of screen time. And that's N.W.A, guys. Don't worry, I have a bunch of niggas that also need apologies, so these videos are gonna be going on for quite some time. Hope you guys enjoy. Please subscribe, please like, please comment. Let the algorithm know that you like what I'm doing, and be easy, guys. Deuces.